The accidental invasion captain Lisa Morgan stared at the navigation display with growing concern. The quantum readings made no sense, and the star patterns outside the viewport of the research vessel, Wanderer's Dream, looked completely unfamiliar. After 15 years exploring the outer rim of human space, she had never seen anything like this. "James, please tell me you have some good news about our position," she called to the xenobiologist hunched over his instruments. Dr. James Chen looked up from his scanner array, his face showing excitement rather than worry. His messy black hair stuck up at odd angles and his glasses reflected the glow from his screens. "Well, Captain, the good news is that we definitely found something new. The bad news is that we're roughly 400 light-years from home in completely uncharted space." Maya Rodriguez, their communications specialist, spun around in her chair. Her dark eyes sparkled with curiosity as she adjusted her headset. "Captain, I'm picking up massive energy signatures all around us. We're not alone out here." Tank Williams, their security chief, stood up from the weapons console. Despite his intimidating size and military background, he wore a relaxed smile that never seemed to fade. "How massive are we talking, Maya? Like one ship massive or invasion fleet massive?" Before Maya could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the space around their small research vessel. Lisa felt her breath catch in her throat. Dozens of enormous warships surrounded them, each one easily the size of a space station. The ships had a graceful, organic design with flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to shimmer with inner light. "Definitely invasion fleet massive," Maya whispered. Zara al-Rashid, their quantum physicist, looked up from her calculations. Her hijab framed a face filled with scientific wonder rather than fear. "Captain, these ships are using technology I've never seen before. The power output is incredible, and their gravitational manipulation systems are at least 50 years ahead of anything we have." "Are they trying to communicate?" Lisa asked. Maya nodded, her fingers dancing across her controls. "Yes, but it's unlike anything in our databases. The signal structure is incredibly complex, almost like they're speaking in mathematical poetry." Suddenly, a deep, resonant voice filled the bridge. The universal translator struggled with the alien language, making everything sound formal and dramatic. "Unknown vessel of primitive design, you have violated the sacred space of the eternal throne. Your presence defiles the holy sanctuary of the mighty Zephyrian Empire." James burst into laughter. "Holy sanctuary? We just stopped to figure out where we are." The alien voice continued, sounding increasingly confused by the lack of terrified responses. "You dare to mock the sacred words? You will face judgment before Emperor Vextar, ruler of 17 star systems, guardian of the ancient ways." Tank chuckled as he checked their defensive systems. 17 star systems? That's pretty impressive. We should ask for their expansion tips. Lisa tried to maintain diplomatic composure, but her crew's casual reactions were making it difficult. "This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the Earth vessel Wanderer's Dream. We apologize for any intrusion. We experienced a navigation malfunction and ended up here by accident. We're peaceful researchers who mean no harm to your people or your sacred spaces." There was a long silence. Then multiple alien voices began speaking at once, their language creating a symphony of confusion. The translator gave up entirely, producing only musical tones and scattered words about peaceful researchers and accident protocols. Maya shook her head in amazement. "Captain, I think we broke their communication system. They keep asking each other what peaceful research means." James was practically bouncing in his seat with excitement. "This is incredible. We're witnessing first contact with a completely unknown civilization. Their biological signatures suggest multiple species working together under one government structure. The sociological implications are fascinating." Zara was studying the energy patterns of the alien ships. "Their technology is remarkably advanced, but it seems designed primarily for conquest and control. I'm not detecting any scientific research vessels in their formation." The alien voice returned, now sounding more formal and uncertain. "Humans of the metal vessel, you will prepare to be transported to the capital world of Zephyros Prime. Emperor Vextar will decide your fate personally." "Transportation sounds great. Tank said cheerfully. Our navigation is completely fried anyway. Lisa looked at her crew's eager faces and realized something important. Any normal group would be terrified, right now. Instead, her team was treating this like the scientific opportunity of a lifetime. James was making notes about alien communication patterns. Maya was trying to decode their language structure. Zara was analyzing their technology. Tank was curious about their military organization. We accept your invitation to meet Emperor Vexitar, Lisa announced formally. We bring greetings from humanity and hope for peaceful relations between our peoples. This caused another explosion of confused alien chatter. The translator caught fragments about greetings protocols and peaceful intentions parameters. 30 minutes later, the humans found themselves aboard the flagship of the Zephyrian fleet. The ship was enormous, with corridors that stretched for kilometers. Everything was built on a scale that made humans feel tiny, but the architecture was beautiful. Flowing organic curves created spaces that felt alive, and bioluminescent panels provided soft, changing light. The engineering is incredible, Lisa whispered as they walked. It's like they grew this ship instead of building it. Their escort consisted of 6 Zephyrian warriors. The aliens were tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and features that seemed almost carved from crystal. They wore armor that looked more like art than protection, with intricate patterns that shifted and flowed as they moved. James couldn't contain his scientific enthusiasm. Your bone structure suggests adaptation to lower gravity worlds, and the translucent qualities of your skin indicate enhanced light sensitivity. Do your people see into spectrums beyond human perception? The lead warrior stopped walking. His large opalescent eyes blinked in confusion. You wish to understand our biological functions? Absolutely, James replied. Human science progresses through understanding diversity. Your evolutionary path must have been remarkable. Maya was examining the walls as they walked. The bioluminescent systems are integrated into the ship's structure. This suggests your people have mastered organic technology. Do you use living systems for computation and control? Tank was studying their escort's equipment. Those weapons look ceremonial, but I bet they're functional too. Nice balance between form and function. Our military designers could learn something from your aesthetic sense. Zara was taking readings with a small device. The gravitational fields in this ship are precisely controlled. You're not just managing thrust and rotation, you're creating comfortable environmental zones for different species. The mathematics involved must be extraordinary. The warriors were now talking among themselves in rapid musical tones. The translator made it sound like they were discussing philosophy and art history. They entered a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. In the center, on a raised platform surrounded by flowing water, sat Emperor Vexitar. He was larger than the other Zephyrians, with silver skin that seemed to glow from within. His clothing looked like it was made from liquid light, constantly shifting colors and patterns. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. I am Emperor Vexitar, sovereign of the Zephyrian Empire, keeper of the ancient traditions, judge of the unworthy. You are the humans who dared to violate the eternal throne system. Lisa stepped forward and gave a respectful bow. Your Majesty, we are honored to meet you. I am Captain Lisa Morgan. We sincerely apologize for accidentally entering your sacred space. Our navigation failed and we had no idea where we were. James couldn't help himself. Your Majesty, your empire's integration of multiple species is remarkable. The cultural and biological diversity we've observed suggests incredible social advancement. How did your people overcome the territorial conflicts that usually prevent such cooperation? The Emperor's glowing eyes widened in surprise. You question our imperial methods? Not question. Celebrate, Maya clarified quickly. Most civilizations never achieve this level of peaceful cooperation. Your success is inspirational. Tank nodded approvingly. Plus, your ships are beautiful, form and function in perfect harmony. Whoever designed your fleet has real artistic vision. Zara was still taking readings. Your Majesty, the energy management in this chamber is remarkable. You're maintaining multiple environmental zones simultaneously, while supporting holographic displays and transportation systems. The computational requirements must be staggering. Emperor Vextar said nothing for a long time. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke to his guards in their musical language. The translator caught fragments about unprecedented responses and consultation requirements. These humans show no fear, the Emperor said slowly. They ask questions, offer compliments, and analyze our technology. This is not the response we expected from treaty violators. Lisa realized they had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple navigation error. Your Majesty, we truly meant no offense. We're explorers and researchers. When we encounter something new and beautiful, our instinct is to learn and appreciate, not to fear or attack. The Emperor studied them with growing fascination. In 7 centuries of expansion, no species has ever responded to capture with curiosity and admiration. You are either remarkably brave or remarkably foolish. Why not both? Tank grinned. Most of our best discoveries come from brave foolishness. James nodded enthusiastically. Scientific progress requires the willingness to explore the unknown, even when it seems dangerous. Maya added, and communication breakthroughs happen when different cultures share perspectives openly. Zara shrugged. Physics is the same everywhere. Understanding how different species apply universal principles always leads to mutual benefit. Emperor Vextar leaned forward on his throne. You speak as if capture and potential execution are opportunities for learning. Aren't they? Lisa asked genuinely. We're learning about your culture, your technology, your history. Even if this ends badly for us, the knowledge we've gained could benefit both our species in the future. The Emperor's expression changed completely. For the first time, he looked uncertain rather than imperial. You would face death with scientific curiosity? We'd prefer not to face death at all, Tank said cheerfully. But if we have to, might as well learn something useful first. The Emperor stood from his throne and began pacing. His liquid light, clothing shifted to darker colors, suggesting deep thought. The sacred protocols require that treaty violators face the trials of judgment. 3 tests that demonstrate worthiness or confirm guilt. No species has ever survived all 3 trials. James' eye perked up with interest. What kind of trials? Physical challenges, mental puzzles, cultural tests? All 3, the Emperor replied. The memory maze tests mental endurance. The void beasts challenge physical adaptation. The logic paradox breaks the minds of those who attempt it. Maya was taking notes. Fascinating. A comprehensive evaluation system that tests multiple aspects of intelligence and capability. Zara looked thoughtful. The mathematical principles behind such trials must be sophisticated, testing multiple variables simultaneously while maintaining objective measurement standards. Tank cracked his knuckles. Sounds like fun. When do we start? The Emperor stared at them in complete bewilderment. You accept the trials eagerly? Lisa looked at her crew's excited faces and made a decision that would change everything. Your Majesty, we accept your trials. We can't promise we'll survive them, but we can promise we'll face them with curiosity, courage, and respect for your traditions. The Emperor's silver skin seemed to pulse with inner light. Very well, humans. Tomorrow you will begin the trials of judgment. Prepare yourselves for tests that have destroyed the greatest minds and strongest warriors of a dozen species. As guards escorted them to quarters, James whispered excitedly, This is the most amazing anthropological opportunity in human history. Maya nodded. And the linguistic data we're gathering is unprecedented. Zara added, The physics applications alone could advance human technology by decades. Tank grinned. Plus, these trials sound like the ultimate team-building exercise. Lisa smiled despite their dangerous situation. The Zephyrian Empire expected fear and submission. Instead, they were getting human curiosity, enthusiasm, and teamwork. Tomorrow would bring trials designed to break them, but they weren't facing them as individuals or even as representatives of humanity. They were facing them as scientists, explorers, and friends who had stumbled into the adventure of several lifetimes. The revolution was about to begin, And it would start with 5 humans who treated impossible challenges as learning opportunities. The impossible trials. The first trial began at dawn on Zephyrus Prime. Lisa and her crew stood at the entrance to what Emperor Vextar called the Memory Maze. It was a massive structure that seemed to shift and change as they watched, built from a crystalline material that reflected their thoughts back at them as disturbing images. The Memory Maze extracts your deepest fears and regrets, explained Commander Zinth, their Zephyrian guide. His crystal blue features showed genuine concern. It projects them as living nightmares that hunt you through endless corridors. Most subjects break within the first hour. The longest anyone has survived is 3 hours and 17 minutes. James adjusted his scanner and grinned. So it's a psychological projection system combined with adaptive architecture. The engineering must be incredible. Tank stretched his shoulders and looked at the shifting walls. How long do we need to survive to pass? 6 hours, Commander, Zinth replied. But as I said, no one has ever lasted that long. Maya was studying the crystalline surface. The material seems to respond to neural patterns. It's reading our brainwaves and constructing scenarios based on our psychological profiles. Zara nodded, taking readings with her quantum scanner. The computational power required to analyze 5 minds simultaneously and create personalized psychological challenges is extraordinary. This technology could revolutionize therapeutic applications. Lisa looked at her team's fascination with the maze and realized they were approaching this completely wrong from the Empire's perspective. Team, what's our usual response to psychological challenges? Talk them through, James said immediately. Support each other, Maya added. Face them head on, Tank contributed. Apply logic and systematic analysis, Zara finished. Exactly. This maze is designed to isolate and terrorize individuals, but we're not individuals. We're a team. Commander. Zinth looked confused. You cannot enter as a group. The maze separates all who enter. Can it separate us if we're linked? Maya asked, pulling out her communication equipment. Our neural interface headsets are designed for deep space exploration. They allow us to share sensory data and maintain contact even through dimensional barriers. Zara's eyes lit up. If we're all wearing the interfaces, we can share the psychological load. When one person faces their worst fear, the other 4 can provide logical analysis and emotional support. James nodded enthusiastically. Plus, we can treat each nightmare scenario as a case study. Scientific observation reduces emotional impact. Tank laughed. And if all else fails, we can mock the scary stuff until it's not scary anymore. Commander Zinth watched in amazement as the humans put on their neural interface headsets and synchronized their equipment. This is not how the trial is supposed to function. Which is exactly why it might work, Lisa said with confidence. They entered the maze together, and immediately the walls began shifting around them. The crystalline surface started projecting their fears. James faced his terror of scientific failure. Maya confronted her fear of being unable to communicate. Tank saw his military unit dying because of his mistakes. Zara faced the horror of unsolvable equations, and Lisa experienced the nightmare of her crew dying under her command. But instead of facing these fears alone, they faced them together. James, your fear of failure is illogical. Zara's voice came through the neural link. Scientific progress requires experiments that don't work. Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Maya, look at how the communication. Fear is manifesting, James replied. The maze is creating linguistic barriers that don't actually exist. It's using false premises. Tank, those aren't your real squad members, Maya added. The maze is using generic military imagery. The real people you saved far outnumber any theoretical failures. Lisa, we're all alive and talking to you right now, Tank pointed out. Your fear scenario is contradicted by current reality. As they analyzed each fear logically and supported each other emotionally, something unprecedented happened. The maze began to malfunction. It was designed to feed on isolated terror, but the humans were turning fear into fascination. Look at how it's adapting our psychological profiles, James said excitedly as he walked through a nightmare scenario of failed experiments. It's learning our response patterns and trying to adjust. But our teamwork is creating feedback loops it can't process. They spent 6 hours exploring the maze like tourists in a psychological theme park, discussing the technology, supporting each other through difficult memories, and generally treating the whole experience as an educational opportunity. When they emerged, Commander Zinth was staring at them in shock. You survived and you're happy? That was incredible, Maya said, her eyes bright with excitement. The psychological modeling technology is unlike anything humans have developed. Plus, we learned a lot about ourselves, Tank added. Nothing like facing your fears with good friends backing you up. Emperor Vexitar himself appeared for the second trial. His liquid light clothing had shifted to colors of confusion and concern. The humans survived the memory maze. They also appear to have enjoyed it. The second trial took place in a massive zero-gravity chamber filled with creatures, called void beasts. They looked like shadowy sharks with far too many teeth, specifically evolved to hunt in weightless environments. These creatures have killed champions from 17 different worlds, the Emperor explained. They hunt by sensing fear and weakness. The trial lasts 2 hours. Survive, and you pass. Lisa looked at the massive predators swimming through the air like deadly fish. They hunt by sensing fear and weakness, Commander Zinth confirmed. Tank grinned. Well, that's their first mistake. We're too curious to be properly scared, and too stubborn to be weak. The humans entered the chamber, using magnetic boots and maneuvering jets. The void beasts immediately began circling them, but something strange happened. Instead of sensing fear, they sensed excitement and curiosity. Look at their movement patterns, James said over the comm system as a beast the size of a small ship glided past him. They're absolutely beautiful. The way they navigate in zero gravity is like an art form. Maya was recording everything. Their sensory organs are incredibly sophisticated. They're reading electromagnetic fields, thermal signatures, and probably brainwave patterns. Zara was taking detailed scans. The mathematics of their movement is perfect. They're calculating vectors and trajectories in real time with incredible precision. Tank was actually trying to pet one of the smaller beasts. Hey there, buddy. You're like a space dolphin with anger management issues. The void beasts, designed to hunt terrified prey, had no idea how to handle humans who kept trying to study and befriend them. Their hunting instincts were completely confused by prey that showed no fear and demonstrated only scientific curiosity. Lisa realized what was happening. Team, I think we need to treat this like a nature documentary instead of a survival challenge. For 2 hours, the humans swam through zero gravity with creatures that had never experienced such treatment. James documented their biology. Maya recorded their communication sounds. Zara analyzed their movement mathematics. Tank played what could only be described as tag with a young void beast. Lisa coordinated everything while keeping detailed notes. By the end of the trial, the void beasts were following them around like curious pets. Emperor Vexitar's clothing had shifted to colors that his own people had never seen before, complete bewilderment mixed with growing fascination. The third trial was the logic paradox, a chamber filled with impossible mathematical and philosophical problems designed to drive victims insane, with unsolvable contradictions. The logic paradox presents questions that have no answers, Commander Zinth explained. The contradictions are designed to break rational minds. Most subjects begin screaming within minutes. Zara perked up with interest. Unsolvable mathematical paradoxes? That sounds like advanced theoretical physics. Quantum mechanics is full of paradoxes that seem impossible until you change your perspective. They entered a room filled with floating equations, philosophical statements, and logical problems that seemed to contradict each other in themselves. The wall showed mathematical impossibilities and linguistic paradoxes designed to trap rational thinking in endless loops. This is amazing, Zara said immediately. Look, they're using Gödel incompleteness theorems as psychological weapons. James was studying a floating equation that claimed to prove its own falseness. This is brilliant. They've weaponized philosophy. Maya was examining paradoxical language constructions. These linguistic loops are designed to create cognitive dissonance, but they're actually fascinating examples of self-referential communication structures. Tank was looking at a paradox about unstoppable forces meeting immovable objects. You know what? These aren't paradoxes. They're just incomplete problems. An unstoppable force meeting an immovable object means you're in a universe where both things can't exist simultaneously, so the question is based on false premises. Lisa watched her crew systematically dismantle philosophical paradoxes that had driven other species insane, and she began laughing. Team, I think these aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be impossible. Exactly, Zara replied cheerfully. But impossible problems are just problems where you haven't found the right perspective yet. In quantum physics, particles can be in two places at once, which should be impossible. But it's only impossible if you insist on classical thinking. For 3 hours, the humans treated the logic paradox like an entertaining puzzle game. They discussed each impossible problem, found creative solutions, and generally had the time of their lives working on theoretical challenges. When they emerged, Emperor Vextar was waiting with his entire council. His clothing was now cycling through colors that seemed to represent a complete emotional spectrum: confusion, admiration, concern, and something that might have been hope. You have survived all 3 trials, he said slowly. But more than that, you have enjoyed them. You turned our greatest psychological weapons into learning experiences. They were incredible, James said enthusiastically. The technology and philosophy behind those trials represents thousands of years of advanced development. Your people are remarkable engineers and philosophers, Maya added. We've learned more about advanced xenopsychology in 3 days than humans have developed in centuries. Commander Zinth stepped forward. Your Majesty, the other prisoner species have been watching the trials. They're asking questions we've never heard before. Tank looked curious. What kind of questions? They want to know why the humans aren't broken. They want to know if they could face the trials the same way. They're asking if fear and submission are really the only responses to imperial power. Emperor Vextar's expression changed completely. Show me. They walked to viewing galleries, where representatives of a dozen conquered species watched through protective barriers. Lisa saw beings with fur, scales, crystalline skin, and features she couldn't even classify. But all of them shared the same expression: hope mixed with desperate curiosity. A being that looked like a walking tree spoke up. The humans faced the trials with joy. Is such a thing possible? Can fear be overcome with curiosity? A creature covered in shimmering scales asked. They worked together instead of competing. They shared strength instead of hoarding it. Is this real? Emperor Vextar stood silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke to his council in their musical language. The translator caught fragments about paradigm shifts and imperial stability concerns. Humans, the Emperor said finally, you have created a problem for our empire. We're good at that, Tank said cheerfully. Your response to our trials has inspired hope in species that had accepted despair. Your curiosity has replaced fear. Your cooperation has shown alternatives to submission. Lisa stepped forward carefully. Your Majesty, is that necessarily a bad thing? For an empire built on conquered peoples accepting their fate? Yes. For a civilization that could grow and thrive through cooperation? Perhaps not. James looked amazed. You're considering changing your entire governmental structure? Emperor. Vextar's clothing shifted to deep, thoughtful blues and purples. The Zephyrian Empire has existed for 7 centuries through conquest and control, but we are facing internal rebellions, resource limitations, and technological stagnation. Perhaps the time has come to learn from species who turn trials into triumphs. Maya's eyes went wide. You want to transform an empire based on fear into a confederation based on cooperation? The humans have shown us that strength comes not from isolation and dominance, but from unity and curiosity. Perhaps it is time for the Zephyrian Empire to become something new. Zara nodded enthusiastically. The mathematical principles of cooperative systems are far more efficient than hierarchical control structures. You could increase productivity, innovation and social stability simultaneously. Plus, Tank added with a grin, working together is a lot more fun than being scared all the time. Emperor Vextar looked at the gathered representatives of conquered species, all watching with hope they hadn't felt in generations. Very well. The humans will become advisors to help transform the Zephyrian Empire into something unprecedented, a galactic confederation built on curiosity, cooperation, and mutual respect. Lisa felt a wave of emotion as she realized what they had accidentally accomplished. They had stumbled into an empire's territory, faced impossible trials, and somehow transformed centuries of oppression into the beginning of galactic cooperation. Your Majesty, she said formally, humanity would be honored to help build something better. As cheers erupted from the viewing galleries and Emperor Vextar's clothing shifted to colors of hope and determination, Lisa looked at her crew. James was already making plans for cultural exchange programs. Maya was discussing translation protocols with Zephyrian linguists. Zara was calculating resource optimization models with Imperial engineers. Tank was somehow already making friends with former prisoners who were now becoming partners. They had crossed a forbidden border by accident and turned what should have been defeat into triumph. Not through violence or cunning, but through the most human responses of all: curiosity, cooperation, and the stubborn refusal to accept that any challenge was truly impossible. The galaxy was about to change, and it started with 5 humans who laughed at trials designed to break them.